him not to do that. Joel Embiid is, I believe, the MVP of the NBA this year. The best player in the game right now. You can't be getting up because you're frustrated while everything's going right for your team and start pushing somebody in the back. As I told somebody on Twitter last night, Joel Embiid literally wrote, I shouldn't say literally because it's not, but Joel Embiid basically wrote books in several languages about how to be a troll on the basketball court and social media. And what happened? He ends up getting trolled. Like Danilo Gallinari, Joel Embiided Joel Embiid. You can't let that happen. And they actually said it on the broadcast that they thought Joel Embiid got thrown out of the game. And I went, oh, God, for a number of reasons. One, I had his over in points. Two, because they would have lost that game. This game was such a great team game that they needed everybody doing their part. And Joel Embiid's part was 40 points. Ugh. So that was the one complaint I had about Joel Embiid's game. And that went against the maturity that we have seen from Joel Embiid. Normally, it's him kind of goading people into doing something stupid. Last night, he just got frustrated as all hell, and I thought something really bad was going to happen where he was going to get thrown out of the game. Not to the point where I thought he'd get injured again, but just to the point where I thought he'd get thrown out of the game. But I know that he was frustrated. I know why he was frustrated. The officiating in basketball has been just so unbelievably terrible over the last 2-3 years in particular. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I've heard having some conversations with people that are closer to the league than I am that this whole way refs call games now in terms of waiting to see if a shot goes in or not to call a foul is a big deal now because if you got fouled and you made the shot, then you didn't get fouled that bad, so maybe you don't need to make the call. But if you got fouled and you missed, then the player gained an advantage through a physical contact, and that's where the foul gets called. I just think that's dumb. I think it's a foul or it's not a foul. I think what the player does after the foul to try to make up for getting fouled should not matter at all in terms of whether or not they make the shot. I hate the way the game's called now. I hate that a guy like Trae Young can initiate contact on a defender who's staying in his lane and essentially keeps a plane to point A to point B, and then the offensive player makes the adjustment to get contact, and then it's a foul on the defensive player. I get you got to let a player come down after they go up for a shot, a clear landing spot so no one rolls an ankle, ruptures an Achilles or anything like that. But everything else, the game is called so unbelievably soft. And that's another thing. Watching the highlights from, like they said, that 7.5-minute highlight of HAKEEM Olajuwon versus David Robinson, man, I miss that version of basketball. I was a kid. When that game took place, I was 12 or 13 years old. I was 12 years old. And whenever I go back and watch highlights that I only watched live as a kid, I always think to myself, I was a kid. Maybe I'm exaggerating because it was the first time I was really experiencing it and the thrill of experiencing it for the first time. No, man, it was that good. It was the best. I really enjoyed 90s basketball, even early 2000s basketball. I preferred it so much more to the game we watched today. And what's funny, that version of basketball and even baseball has really taken a turn to the way the game's played is just so far different to the way I experienced it as a kid in the 90s growing up and all that stuff. It was so much more enjoyable, both sports. I still enjoy this version I enjoy this version of basketball more than I enjoy this version of baseball, though. I will say that. But just going back and watching all that, no, it was just as good as I remember. That's for sure. Joel Embiid, there's one more thing I wanted to get to here. And it's Joel Embiid with what I believe, if you could, I don't know what size font you would need this to put on one singular t-shirt, but Joel Embiid had a homage to Philadelphia, had a beautiful tribute to Philadelphia yesterday when it came to just playing in front of a packed Wells Fargo Center crowd. Here's JoJo when he was asked about playing in front of that crowd.
Obviously, playing at home is huge because we don't seem to lose here. It's rare. The fans, the supporters, they're going to boo you. But it's to make you play better. So I like that energy. But also playing on the road is the same for me, honestly, because as I play on the road, you got the opposite fans, talking trash, booing, I feed off of it, and I like to shut them up. For me, there's no difference. Obviously, I have a lot of love for the Philly fans, and playing at home is, there's nothing like it. The way they get loud, the love that they show, and one thing that people have no idea, and that I'm proud of, is the knowledge of the game. They know everything that's going on, whether it's who's on the team, who the teams you sign, and all that stuff. They just have great awareness. That just shows you. That's what I want. I want to play in a city where fans are into it. They care about you. They care. They want to win, and that's Philly for you.
I think that is the most perfect possible way for anyone to really describe Philadelphia, for anyone to talk about the fan base in Philadelphia, the way he talked about the fan base in Philadelphia. I just don't think there's a better way to describe it. And I always, I joke around with you guys. I always say that a Philadelphia fan base is the strict father. They're not the nurturing mother. So if you're looking for that, you're barking up the wrong tree. But I also always say that I always think players, when they hear Philadelphia fans boo, all they should hear is us saying, hey, you need to get your you-know-what together. That's it. It's not a horrendous personal attack. It's watching I talked about yesterday, the currency being the minutes. Well, the currency for any athlete ever is how good you are. If you're working hard, that absolutely always factors in Philadelphia. They always appreciate the person that, if they're not the best player in the world, they're at least just hustling every single time, trying to give you the absolute best they have. Whatever's in their tank, they're trying to empty it all out. And Philadelphia always respects that and always roots for that guy. But in this case, when people look at Philadelphia, they always go to the bad stuff. They talk about Santa Claus and all that stuff. But in terms of the knowledgeable fan base that Joel Embiid talks about right there, in terms of not just that, but how they want to get inside the opposing player's head, how they want to make sure that they're motivating their players to the best of their ability every single time. That's something right there that I think Philadelphia never gets enough credit for. And the fact that Joel Embiid went on for 90 seconds after this playoff win, on how great the fan base is, I just thought it was fantastic. And I thought he summed it up very, very well.